Now we've built a musical foundation for this song that we're creating throughout this video series. It's time to go and add some groove. Now how do you add groove? Well, you make some beats. Let's go and see how we can make beats using Cubase. In the video on how to compose and create music using chord track and chord pads, we came up with a chord progression and quickly looked at how we can enter some groove to help complement that. In this video, we're going to look at programming our own drum beats, and we're going to do that specifically using Groove Agent SE4. So once you've loaded it up, go to the preset bar. You can go through different categories to look for styles that might suit you. Once you've found a particular drum kit, double-click on the preset to load it into Groove Agent SE4. Now we can control these samples using the pads with our mouse or with an external MIDI controller. One of the most original ways of creating beats in Cubase is to record it using an external controller. First, make sure your click track is turned on. Make sure you can see MIDI activity coming from your external controller. If you can't, make sure your routing is set correctly. Then, hit record. So I'm just putting hi-hats on the offbeat here. In principle, it looks really easy, except it's not actually that easy to play the drums exactly in time, and it takes a lot of practice, which is evident when I open the editor up in the lower zone. You can see my notes aren't on the grid, which is pretty important for drums because they need to be in time. I'm going back up to the quantize setting to find a quantize setting that's going to work for this drum beat. And once again, I'm looking at my grid to try and figure out where the notes are closest to. Once I'm happy, I just hit Q, and now my notes are perfectly in time. And I can start editing them using the key editor. Recording drums like this can be an incredibly frustrating process when you first start, and it does take practice. So once again, it could be easier to go over to the pattern tab and preview some of these patterns. Now the patterns are a good idea to start with because they show you where the hi-hat, the kick drum, the snare drum, and various elements of a groove might go. And we can see exactly where they go in the editor below. But remember, it's easier to work with drums in the drum editor, and we can create a drum map from the instrument or simply select the drum map for the instrument we're working on. Now that we've got the drum map, it's time to start building on this groove that we imported from Groove Agent SE4. You can preview different drum parts by clicking on them on the left-hand side. You can enter notes just by using your mouse and the drumstick tool. At the moment, we're entering beats on the grid, which is based on the quantize setting. Select a higher quantize setting and, well, you can play faster. We can edit the volume or the velocity of the notes in the bottom. Right mouse click to access your drumstick and drag out with your mouse to enter multiple notes at once. To get some dynamics, get your mouse and highlight all of them and pick up on the handles on the left or the right side of this new box and watch what happens. We've got a crescendo or a swell. Let's find our hi-hats. Hold down with our mouse with the drumstick and drag the whole way along. Now we've got an old school, very regimented, machine-like hi-hat. Let's create some groove. Groove is created using dynamics. So a good drummer will vary how hard he's hitting his hi-hats. Once again, we do this using the mouse down in the controller lane. You can do it with multiple events or just with individual hits. Another way to create groove is to take notes out. You can do that by clicking on them. Or let's increase the grid and add more notes. Let's put some dynamics in here. Already this part is taking on a lot more life than it was when we first started. Let's look at how we can put a big drum roll into this groove. Let's go up and raise the quantize setting, which gives us more notes again on the grid. Grab the drumstick and just drag straight along. Now let's put some dynamics in, so it's going to get louder. A really key element of beat creation is swing, which is basically swagger. It's getting a note to move around the regimented grid. So we can go up to the left-hand side and enter a swing amount. When we hit Q, it'll change to that swing amount. That's cool, and notice it's only doing it on the hi-hats because that's the part I selected. We're also not limited by the sounds that are contained in each of these pads. we can change them and manipulate them in Groove Agent SE4 using parameters. I've selected the kick and now I'm adding a filter. Select the snare. Now let's go over to aux and let's turn up the auxiliary send just on this one pad. Go over to the mixer and the auxiliary section, and we've got a reverb. The editor section's down below, so let's open the editor and increase the room size. Just using my mouse on this snare pad. Let's add a filter. Watch the video on how to set up a MIDI controller to see how you can change these parameters using an external MIDI device. We can edit the start and end point of each of these samples by using the handles, and we can even insert fade-ins and fade-outs. If we don't like a particular sound, go to your media bay. You can either use a sound that comes with Cubase AI or load an external sample from one of your files on your hard drive. Drag it across, and now we've replaced that snare sound. That's so easy to do. It gets better. We can go over to the pattern bank, and if we don't like a pattern on one of the pads, go over to this tab here, and you can change to another pattern. Remember, it's just MIDI data that we're working with that's triggering the sounds. All in all, Groove Agent SE4 is an incredibly flexible and powerful instrument, and the cool thing about it is all of this has come free with some product that you've actually purchased. So you can very quickly start creating beats and producing tracks which you can play and record over the top of. Let's quickly go over another concept for creating groove that we looked at in an earlier video. It's so easy to find audio loops on the internet. You can download them to your hard drive and use the file browser in your media bay to start previewing them. Make sure you've got Align Beats to Project selected, and now these loops are going to play in time with your project. Drag and drop them straight over, and they're instantly in your project as an audio file. Hey, thanks for stopping by and checking out this video on making beats and grooves in Cubase. Please like the video if you've learned something. Stop by, leave us comments and let us know how you're going creating beats and grooves in Cubase, and subscribe to our channels for more videos exactly like this. I'm going to catch you in the next video in this playlist.
You're always gonna be enough, so I